So we're going to talk about basically just a quick history of flight nursing, um, some dry information, and then of course we're going to talk about what flight nursing looks like today, and specifically some brief history of Airlift Northwest as well, what that company looks like today, a few tips on how to become a flight nurse, and a day in the life of flight nursing. And then we'll open up for some questions at the end. So in doing the research for this presentation, I actually learned quite a few things. That the flight nursing was actually founded by a woman named Loretta Schmoller. She was actually an aviatrix and the first woman to ever open an airport in the United States. And she had witnessed the destructive power of a tornado and one day decided, there's going to be a need for air evacuation. And she wanted to incorporate the nursing profession along with aviation. And she founded the Aerial Nurse Corps of America. And it wasn't until World War II in 1943 when the Army Air Forces Evacuation Service was formed, and the first 30 members of that group graduated from intensive training. Basically, this was the first official flight nurse career. And the first woman to receive her wings as a flight nurse was Geraldine DeShroon, who actually participated in the Omaha Beach D-Day. And she was one of the first women in that air evacuation team. And during that war, about a little over 1 million patients were evacuated during the war, and surprisingly, only 46 of these patients lost their lives during transport. That's pretty amazing considering that the volume of transports that they were doing. And of only 500 of the Army nurses, only 17 of them perished during that war. And there's another thing that was surprising to me, that the aircraft that they used to transport their patients were the same planes that they were using to transport supplies. It had no special markings. It didn't display any indication that they were non-combatants. So they were taking enemy fire. And as a result, the flight nurses were all volunteers. Nobody really wanted to be assigned to that. So all women, all volunteers, and they flew under the direction of a flight surgeon. And then during the Korean War is kind of when things really started to pick up. There was about 7,000 women during that conflict that served as healthcare professionals, and 1,500 of those actively served on tours of duty, very, very close to the front lines. And surprisingly, men were banned from working as nurses in the military until 1955. So these flight nurses in the Korean War were all women, and they served both on the mobile hospitals as well as ships and medevac aircraft. And the Vietnam War actually was a big contributor to kind of how flight nursing is today. A lot of the lessons learned and treatments that were developed during the Vietnam War really launched how we practice. And prior to the Vietnam War, the survival rates of wounded soldiers were well below 70%. And during this conflict, we saw an increase of survival rates to well above 70%. And modern day, we have a greater than 90% survival rate for wounded service people, primarily because of this the ability to medevac and transport wounded soldiers to surgical centers. And so now, 90 years later, we've flight nurses have evolved from basically being a flight surgeon's assistant to nurses that can operate almost autonomously with special protocols. We practice with a very high degree of independence, again, under the direction of protocols established by our medical directors. And we transport patients in planes, helicopters, ambulances, and during the whole time we're administering ICU level of care.
So I'm going to talk to you guys about coming back from that history, what we do today as flight nurses. Like Aries said, we can fly in either planes, so our fixed wing aircraft, or we can fly in helicopters. So a lot of us, so we call it critical care in the air. We can land on a scene, so any sort of emergency operation, or if we or like an emergency service, or if we are transferring somebody from a smaller hospital, usually back here to Seattle, where they get the care that they need. So currently, we fly two flight nurses at a time. The pilot will fly us, and the nurses either have ICU or emergency room experience. Most of us have at least 5 years in one of those fields. We carry blood products for emergency transfusion, so we're often one of the first people on scenes, and we're able to provide trauma care that patients need. We're trained to care for patients of all ages, so we can take care of newborns. There's some specialty teams of nurses that go in and take care of the really little ones, and kind of any age and any situation, what would be called. We can be called for um, a card issue, a mother that's in labor, or an older patient having any sort of issue or a trauma. Currently, our company has bases all over Washington. We have some in Western Washington, so that's Bellingham, Arlington, Bremerton, Olympia. And then we have some in Eastern Washington, Wenatchee, Yakima, Pasco, and we're going to be opening a new base in Davenport. We also are up in Alaska. That's where I got started as a flight nurse. So we have a base in Juneau, which makes it really exciting that we're able to transport patients that can't get the care they need in Alaska, but we can bring them down here. I really wish
And
we could show some of these
I
videos.
know these are really good videos.
Yeah, they're great
That's
videos.
technical difficulty. Sorry,
I'm
guys.
adding them to your materials so people can access them through your speaker links.
Okay,
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
great. Yeah, all those we think they're pretty neat. They
Yeah,
highlight kind of like what a day is or what it looks like when we get a call.
yeah,
A lot of people wonder what it's like. We we have quarters, so we work kind of like a firefighter does. And we're just waiting for a page, and as soon as that pager goes off, we just get very basic information of what we're going to get. So it could be anything. So you might just get 50-year-old chest pain. So you'll get your location, and there you go. You have a few minutes to just get ready, get the blood in the aircraft, get your helmet on, and there you go. So what does it take to become a flight nurse? Like I said, you go to nursing school, you pass your NCLEX, which gives you the license to become a nurse. All of our nurses have at least 5 years of ICU or ER experience. And then you go through all the certifications. You have some basic needs in ACLS, BLS. So those are all the like emergency certifications that we obtain to make us more qualified to be flight nurses. We also all are required to pass a certification now, which it's a pretty rigorous test, and it it states kind of our abilities and our experience, and it's a good recognition as a flight nurse. And like we said, it's you need a passion for patient care. You also have to be able to fly, and we we work in all sorts of weather, all sorts of terrain. You have to just kind of be willing to be very flexible in your work conditions, but that's also what makes it really exciting. I
yeah,
love that part of the job. You never know where you're going to be, what kind of patients you're going to encounter, and what kind of weather. I mean,
yeah,
so
definitely.
lots of exciting things and variables in being a flight nurse.
No two shifts is ever the same.
Exactly. So speaking of shifts, we work 24-hour shifts. So normally we start at 9 a.m. until 9 a.m. the next day. And like I said, you can get paged at any time during those 24 hours. We get briefed from the pilot. We get briefed on weather, on how the aircraft is operating. And we talk about how well we're ready for taking on any flight. We check our equipment, we check our aircraft. Safety is always number one. So we put that first. We check all the gear, we check the aircraft to make sure that we are ready to go at any time. We do chores just like anybody at home. We take care of our bases. We are often practicing skills. As you can see in some of these pictures, we're practicing like how to intubate somebody, put in a breathing tube, how to keep up to date on some of the skills that we don't do often. So we're constantly practicing. And then we go off on patient transport. Some of them are quick. They take round trip an hour, and sometimes you may be gone for hours, depending on where you go. And you may be called onto a scene. So you might land on the side of a highway, on somebody's lawn, or you might just be called to an airport, a small rural airport that needs help getting somebody out to a major hospital here in Seattle. Oh, I always say Seattle because that's usually where I go. But Aries, he flies mostly in Eastern Washington. So where do you go most, Aries?
All over the place, basically. We
Yeah.
sometimes go to Sacred Heart in Spokane. We go all the way to OHSU in the Portland, Oregon area, and sometimes we pick up patients from as far as places in Montana. And actually, we sent a patient down to California just a few weeks ago. So anywhere and everywhere, basically, where we're needed. And we have plenty of range. We just get more gas if we need to go a little further.
And I work out of the Bellingham base, so I'm mostly up north, and we serve a lot of the San Juan Islands. So no complaints there. We get to fly in beautiful San Juan Islands, around Mount Baker, the North Cascades. So I find it pretty dreamy.
Awesome.
Yeah, is there a next slide there?
That was kind of it. Our videos was kind of designed to take up a lot of our time.
But yeah, do you guys have any
it's just
questions for us?
Unfortunate. Now's the time to ask. All right. Well, I was hoping to have a few more nursing students. Looks like we lost Crystal.
I have a dumb question, but
no such thing.
Go ahead.
So you're not actually flying the planes or the helicopters, right? That's like a separate position.
Yeah. So we have our crew consists of a pilot.
Yeah.
And then the two to three medical crews.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Every now and then we get to ride up front.
Yeah, we have highly qualified pilots. A lot of them are, come from the service. They've done lots of experience in the military, and they're ready to fly at any time and in all conditions. We feel pretty fortunate to have the experience that we have flying with us.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing kind of what your pathway was to or your journey to ending up in
Great question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is a second career for me. My first career was in IT. I actually lived in the Seattle area back in the 90s, 1995. Got kind of caught up in that whole bubble burst in 2000. And I found myself without a job, and I had to really rethink career choices and decided healthcare was where it's at. Really, there's always going to be sick people. There's always going to be jobs in healthcare, and it really wasn't affected by trends in the economy and market. So I decided nursing school was going to be it for me. So went back, reinvented myself, got my 4-year degree. Got my 2 years of ICU experience in, and I started to travel. Actually, travel as a travel nurse for 3 years. At which point I found myself back in the Seattle area, and started working for the University of Washington Medical Center. And pretty much that the rest was history. And I just a few years ago found myself in the flight nursing track again. It was something that I've always wanted to do, but kind of lost sight in my journey. But then kind of decided, why haven't I done this sooner? So kind of an interesting, almost a surreal sensation was I used to work in the building downtown, the Bank of America building, and my office overlooked Harborview's helicopter pad. Actually, I was on the 26th floor, and I would watch these helicopters come in and land on that helicopter pad. And I used to think, wow, what a cool job. I wonder what that's like. And just about a year, 2 years ago, I came in on a helicopter, landed on that helicopter pad, and I was looking back up at where my office used to be and realized, wow, full circle. So
Mhm.
it was kind of a neat sensation.
I have a similar story to Aries. I was going through my nursing school path and started working at Harborview as a student, and then I watched these nurses land on the helipad, and I was like, "What is that?" And someday I want to do that. And then I went into ICU, spent some time there, and just kind of worked my way up. And now, and and got into airlift. I started up in Juneau, and now made my way down here, which is home. But yeah, it's the same feeling coming full circle when you land on the helipad. It never gets old, really. Seattle's beautiful, and just landing every time, I'm like, this is where I wanted to be like 20 years
Yeah.
ago. So it's pretty neat.
Do you feel like with all the nurses or even, the other folks you work with, like there's a special kind of like characteristic or skill or something or commonality that draws people to this work?
Oh, definitely. And you see it in the crews, at least I do. That a lot of them are super athletic, super outdoorsy types.
Adventures,
Adventures,
for
just
sure.
adrenaline junkies.
Yeah, I think we all have some form of that.
Some form of that.
Mhm.
If you enjoyed roller coasters, or driving fast, jumping out of planes, going downhill
Mountains.
fast on a mountain bike, or climbing, this is a job for you. Definitely. I think we've had people who have gotten to this job and realized, wow, I really don't like flying. So
It's a tough time to realize it.
yeah, it's a bad
Yeah.
time to realize it. But I think for the most part, 90% of the people that come into this job know exactly what they're